Welcome to the NOVAHOOPCAST. We're here after the holidays, live at Potomac Falls, the Panther Pit. Kevin and I had an opportunity to look at some holiday basketball. We look forward to talking about that. But before we get into that, we did have a chance to speak to Coach Jeff Hawes, the elder statesman of Loudoun County basketball coaches. So let's go ahead and roll that tape, Buster. Okay, we're live at the Panther Pit, Potomac Falls, the house that Hawes built. We're here with Jeff Hawes. He's got some history here. I think he's the oldest coach in Loudoun County right now.
Oldest or most tenured?
Both. Yeah, the elder statesman. Hey, Coach, let me just put it out there right now. You guys are the only remaining undefeated team in the public schools in the areas that we cover.
Right.
So a little pressure on you guys now, a little target on your back?
Yeah, definitely. I was trying to tell the kids, we came back from break, we were 9-0, and just said, hey, it's a new kind of pressure now, so you got to embrace it and welcome it, and I'm feeling a little bit too.
Right.
We've had some success and all that, but we kind of been building for this year. We kind of knew it was coming. I had a lot of these kids, coached a few of them in AAU coming up, and we've had this marked on the calendar for a few years.
Right.
And, hey, here we are, 10-0. But cool thing is I really feel like we can get a lot better.
Absolutely.
Well, you mentioned success, and I think you're downplaying things a little bit. 11 state titles as we look at the wall, 4 region titles and 2 state titles, the only state titles by a boys basketball team in Loudoun County, which, being a Loudoun County resident, I know all too well. I'm very proud of that fact that we were kind of, in my opinion, doing so well in so many sports, but basketball was the one sport we just couldn't get over the hump, and you did that for Loudoun County. But part of that success is you being here as long as you've been here and the tradition you have. You talked about coaching some of these kids, but a lot of these kids have been, 5-6-year-old kids coming to camp, wanting to be Panthers, wanting to play on this court. Tell us about the tradition and what it means to the school and to the community here at Potomac Falls.
Yeah, well, Kevin, you said a lot of things really well. When I got the job, it's something I always envisioned, and 7-37 those first 2 years being AAA, it was tough.
Right.
But got to keep your head down and keep working in the Panther camps and open gyms, and we slowly developed a little group of kids that would sit right over here, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and coming to camp, and they just started to get a feeling, and like you said, it built that, man, I want to be a Panther someday, and then we got over the hump fairly early, to be honest. Once we were AA, we started winning some district titles, and it just slowly kept building. We've been lucky to have a lot of talent, but we have a system, we have a discipline about us that kids buy into it, and just over time, it's really built up to be pretty strong.
Well, it's certainly been a successful system for you. I agree with Kevin. I think you're downplaying things a little bit. Certainly one of the most successful programs throughout Northern Virginia. This year's team, you talk about you've been building it for a while. You've been building it in your household with 2 of your players. You're fortunate enough, and Kevin and I talked about this.
We talked how hard it is
Yeah.
to coach your own kids, and how there's always the perception that maybe something is not fair. And I think you're very fortunate to have 2 talented players, very different players, in your son Hayden, who's a senior, and your younger son Landon, who's a junior. You have and very different in the way that they look. One's a little bit taller, the younger one's taller than the other, but they both love the game. You can see that when they play. Tell us what it's like. I mean, we know there's other people in county doing it, but what is it like for you to coach them? Maybe the highs and lows of it.
Yeah, well, I kind of, when you called me Friday and talked about interviewing, I thought about, what things would you ask? And I kind of had a feeling that would be one of them. So it kind of got me, really thinking about it. In some ways, I feel a little robbed, to be honest. I don't know if it's because I did it for 20 years before they played for me.
Right.
But I pride myself, and people can watch me coach, and they can't tell by the way I coach which kids are mine. And I pride myself in that. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to be honest. A couple of my staff members brought me upstairs over the summer and said, you know what? You don't play your oldest one enough. The good things he does when he's on the court, and other people might not see him, but, so anyway, I know both of you have had the pleasure or the toughness, whichever way we look at it, of doing the same thing. But what I mean by being robbed is I'm coaching, and I, honest to goodness, do not see anything. I mean, El can hit a step-back crossover 3 in somebody's face, or Hayden takes a charge. I'm immediately moving to the next possession. I'm just coaching. The other night at Tuscarora County, I watched a dad across the gym. He's filming. He's beaming with pride. He's pumping his fist. He's dabbing everybody around him.
Right.
And it just got me thinking, man, I don't get that,
No,
you know?
you
I
can't.
don't get that. But I can say this in my own private time, when I'm watching film, I might rewind the boys 10 times, and that's kind of in my own time. And,
Right.
But it really has been. It's going so fast. So fast. We have our leaders program, which I do through Coach Byrne. And they drove themselves there this morning. And
Right.
They roll up in there, and it really kind of hit me this morning, like, man, it's almost over as far as that stage of.
And them playing together, right? They're on the same team, which is, next year Hayden will be gone. He's
Right.
attending Shepherd College, actually Shepherd University now to play golf for them, and you'll have one more year with Landon. I'm sure you're going to cherish every moment there.
Well, when you look back, in years to come, I'm sure it's going to be great years, the opportunity to coach them. And I know there's highs and lows that go along with it, but I think they're fortunate to have the opportunity to play for you.
Thank you.
Hey, let me change gears a little bit, Coach. As we mentioned, we're just coming off holiday break, and again, a topic Kevin and I have talked about a lot. You guys don't play in the Christmas tournament, and we sometimes talk about the value or lack thereof sometimes of playing in those tournaments. Tell us a little bit about that and how you kind of came to that place.
Yeah, well, Kevin will tell you, he played in it. It used to be the biggest thing of the year. A lot of times, Christmas tournament.
Oh, yeah.
Parkview, Broad Run at 8, County Valley played at 6.
Yep.
And it almost meant more to win that than it did the district. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
And, when we were built, it threw it off right away because we had an odd number now. And we invited in a Sharando, and, nothing against them, but it immediately started to lose its flavor. I got married. I had a wife who would have rather lived in Ohio at the time. And it was kind of either go to Ohio or bust, for Christmas.
Right.
And, the first year I did it, I was scared to death to give the kids 7 or 8 days off. And ironically, it really has turned out to be one of the best things we do every year. We get away from each other. I pride myself. I study the whole not breaking more, I pat myself on the back. But I always try to find new drills, a couple new set plays, and spend a lot of time. We come back, we have about 4 practices that are almost like training camp.
Right.
My kids dread them, but they love them, if that makes sense.
Sure.
We went about 3 hours a day, and I don't believe in going that long very often, but it's worked well for us. Now, that first game back happened to be Stonebridge on the road,
Right.
which is a tough one, and I always hold my breath a little bit that first game back. And we were a hair rusty, but, we worked some things out. It's just worked well for us.
Yeah, clearly your results speak for themselves. So that's interesting, different from what others do.
And I think you do get a little bit of that away time in the beginning of the year. Last couple of years, you've gone down to tip-off tournament.
Correct.
In Southern Virginia, Spotswood?
Broadway.
The Gobblers. How
Yes,
could you
sir.
forget the Gobblers. So that's a good opportunity to get away. And some would say maybe the most important part of the year, the beginning of the year, when they're getting to know each other, especially if they're a young team. I want to go backwards a little bit, too, and talk about we kind of go on our soapboxes sometimes as the old heads, the old guys, the way it used to be. You've been here from the get-go. You're, again, an ambassador for Loudoun County basketball. How have things changed in Loudoun since you were a player to where you are now as a coach, and where you see Loudoun County basketball in terms of across the state?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Just like everything in life, there's some pluses and minuses. I think the basketball is pretty good. A lot of kids train. A lot of kids play AAU now. A lot of kids are playing year-round. Man, there's so many cool schools in such a transient area. I think we've lost a little bit as far as the crowds and year-round sports. I think I couldn't come to the game because I'm doing my softball training or my indoor baseball. So sometimes that's been a little bothersome that the crowds aren't quite what they were just 6-7 years ago. But I do think if people are watching, I think there's some pretty good basketball. And I think as far as your question with, we're not far off.
Yeah.
We're right there.
I remember being a player and being nervous playing Fairfax County schools. Summer league, we played South Lakes.
Right.
And now I don't think there's much of a difference anymore. I think there used to be a big difference, but now I think good teams are good teams no matter where you are. And
Well,
I think
you
that's
look
a big change.
Sorry to interrupt. Virginia prep rankings. You look right now. We're 3rd. Riverside 7th.
Yep, 4A.
Valley's 10th.
10. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm missing somebody, but I mean, there's, I think Freedom's got a real good ball. I mean, everybody, we talked about it.
The parodies.
Yeah, there's nobody that can't beat anybody, and that makes it exciting, too.
Yeah, the growth has been phenomenal. I mean, in all parts of Loudoun County. And like I said, we all have a history. You and I used to bang heads when Coach Weeren was playing at Broad Run, and you were on the coaching staff there. And how many high schools were there then? I don't know, but
4 for us.
yeah,
4, yeah.
Broad Run was in the sticks. We talked about
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago. Those were good times, but you got to change with the times. And you guys, I think Loudoun County is certainly outstanding in athletics. I mean, football, baseball, across the board. You're right there at the top in the basketball program. So I think whatever change there's been in Loudoun County, you've adapted pretty well to
Thank you.
on the basketball court. You got any old Broad Run dirt on Kevin over there? He talks about he was a great three-point shooter.
No, he knows I wouldn't say that. That wouldn't me. I was. We always talk. When you're the coach, you probably weren't the MVP of your high school
Right.
team.
You got the coach's award.
Coach's award,
Right.
and I was the coach's award.
Senior year.
Most
He plays so
improved.
hard.
Both won it.
He's a nice kid. He really cares about the team. That was the
Right.
kind of. There was no 3-point shooting for me. That was for sure. But
Well,
yeah,
the only dirt I got is we both, as you can see, we were both coaches award. We were both very competitive.
Right.
No two people went harder at each other.
Right.
Me and
This
Kevin
is
didn't
true.
pick up.
This is true. This is true.
Hey, we made it through, right?
Yeah, we
still
did.
love
We
him,
did.
a lot of respect for him. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it made us both better. Yeah.
Well, before we let you go, we do have, we're really getting into conference play now. And I know you did some studying over break. What things do you think are key to the Panthers' success kind of moving forward?
Yeah, I was telling the kids today, we just, and over break, our practices over breaks, we got, this is a time of year to me when it comes down to details.
Right.
We use that word a lot, tighten a lot of things up defensively and on our sets. And I was just telling the kids today, running up and down the court and scoring in transition. And every year it happens, the closer you get to February, the more the game slows down a little bit. So you better be sharp in the half-court set, cut screens and knowing our sets. And so that's what I was saying earlier to you guys, that I really think we're not as close to as good as we can be, which is exciting, because if we were 10-0 and this was all we had, I'd be really scared. But we understand what's in front of us. I was writing up a practice schedule and game schedule for the kids to give out, and every one I wrote, I was like, oh man, that was going to be tough. Well, I'm not sure what'll happen on that one.
Right.
So in a way, that's kind of a good thing, I don't feel like there's anybody we can't beat, but there's no one that can't beat us if we're not ready to go. So we're really excited.
Well, as Kevin mentioned, you got a bunch of banners hanging up on the wall and some state titles, and I know you'll put some more dates on those banners.
We hope so.
Keep it going. Kevin, anything else for the coach?
No, we just wish you good luck. Thanks for letting us be in the Panther Pit.
Awesome. Good to have you guys.
One of the best places, if not the best place in Loudoun County to watch a game. They always have it going here. So if you ever get a chance, come on out. Check them out.
Appreciate it.
You got it.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jeff.
Appreciate it.
Okay, always entertaining to speak to Coach
I
Hawes.
think our longest interview,
Yeah,
which is something we said, and he said it very well. We could probably talk. We've known each other, Brian and I, and Jeff Hawes as well, for a long, long time. We could talk for hours.
Perhaps we should get together at a local establishment sometime and tell some more stories.
Perhaps.
All right. We probably won't bring the cameras to that.
Nope.
Okay. So, like we said, holiday tournaments are over with. We'll recap some of those, and we're really in conference play right now. And Kevin, I've always found that this is the time of year that things start to fly. It goes so quickly. You blink, and all of a sudden you're getting ready for your district tournament. But before we get into that, how about some of the holiday tournaments?
Yeah, it feels like a while ago. Here we are, into January, but we did have some great tournaments we talked about on the last show. We're just going to quickly run through who did what. Fairfax, where Brian is coaching, very strong team. They won their own tournament. One of the few teams to win their own tournament. They had a good showing against Oakton. Oakton, a little surprised that they beat Battlefield, but after watching them play in the championship, you see where they have the talent to be good this year. Micah Parat Johnson, Garrett Johnson, Max Wilson, some firepower there. So that was a really good game to watch. Centerville High School won the Falls Church Tournament over Liberty High School from Fauquier County. A bunch of teams from Prince William went over to the Governor's Challenge, which I found out is probably the biggest Christmas tournament on the East Coast. Huge tournament, played there in Salisbury. A lot of brackets. I saw some video from it. Looked like they were playing multiple games at the same time. But a lot of good competition. They have a lot of different brackets. Osborne Park, we've talked about them before, and their high scorer, Ethan Wilson. They won their bracket. Patriot won their bracket over a team that, a lot of people know a lot about. That's Good Counsel,
Right.
One of the better teams in the WCAC. They were up big and kind of had to hold on late, but a very good win for Patriot. Then Forest Park, a team that I'd like to talk about when we get into Prince William. They lost in the final. And then Potomac, Dumfries lost in the semifinals and won the consolation round. So four teams from Prince William over the Governor's Challenge.
Here closer to home, Osborne was undefeated going into the holidays. They and Potomac Falls were those two last remaining.
Patriot, yeah.
Were all the remaining undefeated teams. Osborne did take a loss to John Paul the Great in the semis of the Mount Vernon tournament. I think Osborne's been a little banged up and had some guys in and out of the lineup.
They were sick. We had talked to Rocky, and especially in that John Paul the Great. He's not one to make excuses, but he did say we were sick and we were banged up a little bit.
Yeah. So that league is tough as always. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Lake Braddock in the Glory Days Tournament of Champions lost a green run in the final of that tournament.
Very good green run team.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of firepower in that game, again, up and down the court. So Lake Braddock loses a tough one there to a good green run team. Wakefield lost to Flint Hill in the George Long tournament, right, at Wakefield.
George Long.
Had some good public-private matchups down there. Hayfield gave Flint Hill all they could handle. And then Wakefield lost to Flint Hill in the championship game of that. Mm-hmm. Riverside, where your son plays and where you coach, won down at James Wood to go to 11-1, right?
Well, I don't coach there. I am completely done with coaching.
Well, from the bleachers maybe a little bit.
No.
Maybe on the ride home.
Nope, none of that. No coaching, no talking, just observing. But yeah, Riverside, thank you for mentioning that. Had a good win over Harrisonburg High School, 5A school from Harrisonburg, Virginia, of all places. Who was in the state tournament last year. They had won 6 in a row, and Riverside was in a battle with them in the first half, second half. Played very well and kind of blew things open late. But Bo Everett played very, very well. Brett Asbury, both strong players. So, Riverside's 11-1 and looking pretty good.
So when all is said after holiday tournaments, we have one remaining undefeated team in the area, Potomac Falls. So fitting that's where we are today. So another thing I think that you and I were talking about earlier today was some of the rankings that came out, Virginia Preps, Washington Post. What jumps out at you from some of those rankings?
Well, we always are about public school basketball in Northern Virginia, so we're going to highlight them and nobody else.
Right, that's what we do.
And this is a question for you. What's harder to be ranked, in your classification in the state or in the Washington Post?
Oh, Washington Post.
No question. I agree. No question. So the highest team in the ranking is Patriot at number 10. Osborne's right behind them. Despite their loss to St. John Paul the Great, they're at 11. And then West Potomac and Potomac Falls, where we are tonight, are 19-20. So Potomac Falls getting in there for the first time, the only Loudoun County school ranked in the Post.
Yeah, West Potomac, Darryl Mackey Jr. Was a little banged up. He's kind of, I think, started rounding back.
Is it dislocated or a sprain? I don't think dislocated is pretty serious.
Yeah, I don't have accurate medical reports on his ankle injury. It was definitely a significant ankle injury, but he's back on the court.
Well, maybe you could work on it.
I'll work on that. I'll reach out. Some of the Virginia Preps rankings, we talked about the post rankings. Kevin, what did you find on Virginia Preps?
Well, Virginia Preps does their rankings by classification, so we'll start at 6A. Patriot, number 1 team in 6A basketball. Now, they did lose to Cox High School from the Beach after that ranking was made. So, and Cox is ranked in the top 10, so that's, if there's such a good thing as a good loss, it was to a very good team. But
Osborne had been ranked first in the previous poll
until then they lost. Well, Osborne Park did drop. Their loss was a little bit earlier. They're now at 4. South County at 7. Lake Braddock at 9, and then school again, Brian, you're familiar with, Fairfax Rebels at 10, with I think only 1 loss this year as well. Playing very good basketball.
Yeah. 5A, we got Potomac Falls. Was number 3. We'll see if they move up at all. Wakefield at 9 and Potomac at 10. Anything jump out at you with those guys?
I think Potomac's kind of coming on. I think they have a young team and they've put together a nice little run here. we'll go into Prince William, but they are undefeated right now in their district and looking to get better and better.
Yeah, I don't know if you could say a team with the tradition of Potomac can be under the radar.
I know.
Or sneak up on people, but
they seem
they
like
might
that.
Because I don't think they've gotten quite the recognition this year. And maybe, people like us aren't talking about them as much, but I think you're right. They're certainly capable of beating anybody. 4A, Riverside, we mentioned Riverside earlier.
Rams.
Riverside, kind of a nice moment for the school, for them to be ranked 7th in 4A.
A very nice moment, and I get a little bit of grief. I think some people know that I do the show and wonder when they're going to get recognition, but I honestly felt like, when you beat good teams, then you get recognition. The Harrisonburg win was a good one. They have some tough tests this week against Loudoun County rivals, so they can continue to go up in that poll if they continue to win. But they're 11-1, doing a very good job. And I think as a new school, 4 years in existence, it is a good thing. They've had a lot of success in a lot of other sports, not so much in football until this year, not so much in basketball until this year. So it is a good thing for the school.
Yeah, say what you want to say about the importance of athletics in the school, but the community comes out. It's kind of the front porch of the school, and to be successful in football, basketball, also successful in baseball and some other sports.
Lacrosse,
does a lot.
field hockey,
Lacrosse, they've won a state title, so really does a lot for the school community and for morale. And then Loudoun Valley coming in at number 10 in 4A. And they're probably used to being ranked much higher than that.
Yeah, they are, but they had a good, we didn't mention them in our Christmas tournaments, but they went down to North Carolina. I think we did in the previous show because they played before Christmas.
Right.
But they got a good win, a couple good wins down there, and then they got a good win on Friday against Woodgrove at home. So they're continuing their tradition there as well.
So let's dig into each county a little bit deeper. Maybe I'll just mention a thing or two about Loudoun and let our Loudoun expert go a little bit further. But Potomac Falls, like we said, remains undefeated. But there's a lot of balance and a lot of parity out here in Loudoun. I mean, I think you have to say Potomac Falls, by virtue of their record and their tradition, is the best team out here. But there's a lot of people knocking at the door, and there's a lot of jockeying to knock them off and to kind of figure out who's right behind them. They did just have a win over Stonebridge by 7, which kind of shows you some of the balance.
And that's not their only close game.
Yeah, and Stonebridge's record is not good, but we both know Stonebridge can beat anybody in the county, like any number of other teams can. So what other teams?
The conversation starts and ends with anyone can beat anybody, right? Really. And even Potomac Falls. You mentioned the 7-point victory over Stonebridge. They won by 4 points over Heritage. They had a close game against Freedom. They're unbeaten, but they could have lost a number of games. And then if you play the whole game of, well, they beat them, so they be able to beat them, this other team, it doesn't work that way. Anyone can beat anyone in either district. So it's a fun year, but when people say, let's rank Loudoun County, I think it's almost impossible to do. I know our friends at Nova Hoops did it with Potomac Falls being number 1, but after that, it could be any given week.
Right, pick the names out of a hat. Kevin, you know what I'm wondering?
What do you wonder?
I'm wondering who's going to come out of the Dulles district. I mean, you talk about the parity in Loudoun, but the Dulles district,
I'm going to give you the old cliche, who's ever playing well at that time of the year, because that is really the truth. Right now, they've only played 1 or 2 teams in the district. The next week or two will tell you a lot. And when we get back here in a week, I think we'll be able to give you more information.
Well, I had a chance to see Riverside play Heritage, and I think that was an important game for Riverside. It was it was the first day back to school, and it kind of felt like it. It felt like it in the gym. It looked like the kids were a little bit sluggish on both sides, but I think that was an important win for Riverside because I know they haven't necessarily been really challenged in their non-conference play, and to their credit, they've taken care of business. So for them to come in, first district game and get off on the right foot with a win was big. But again, I have no idea who's going to come out of that district when all is said and done.
Well, you're either a pretender or you're a contender, and that would be something that you'll see again in a week. We'll talk then, and we'll know who the top teams are.
Did you make that up? That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
T-shirt.
Nice.
We make it
Good. All right, Prince William County, Patriot just took their first loss. You mentioned that earlier to Cox. They also had a 5-point win over Battlefield.
So that was a huge game.
Yeah, so that again, Cedar Run, I don't know if it's as strong as it was last year or not, but It's a dogfight in that league every night, and I would say the bottom of that league has come up a little bit because Osborne Park is making some
They
noise.
gave Osborne a very good
Osborne
game
a good
and
game.
a good rivalry game
Yeah.
on Friday night. So I would say right now it's definitely Patriot, still number one team with Osborne and Battlefield a little bit behind.
Right. Potomac is 4-0 in the district. I know you mentioned them. They had a victory over Freedom Woodbridge.
Sole possession of the Cardinal District in first place. They did play Forest Park in a close game. It was Potomac 66 and Forest Park 60. And Forest Park was coming off a 4-game win streak. And that's a team we haven't talked about a whole lot yet. But Kevin Johnson, Daryl Garib, they combined for 32 points in that game against Potomac. Then they beat Garfield. They had 4 players reach double figures. The game before that, they're playing very well, and they seem to be the number 2 team behind Potomac in that Cardinal District.
Yeah, and I think there's some opportunities in that district for some people to kind of take some steps forward, behind Potomac and possibly challenge Potomac. We'll see. Kevin, you know what I was wondering?
Yeah, he's got a lot of I wonders. Okay, what are you
Well,
wondering?
here's
What's
what
your
I'm
question?
wondering. I'm wondering who has the best backcourt in the Cedar Run district. I've had a chance to watch some of these guys this year already. Not so much the kids at Patriot, Hagen Vandiver and Devon Parrish, although we've talked.
Vandiver has been on fire.
Yeah, they're
Starting
both
with that
strong.
Marshall game, he's been playing very well.
So you got those guys. Osborne has Draku Hogan and Manny Ojo, and in their win over OP, they had 27 and 21. And then Battlefield, I saw them in their tournament. They were in the Fairfax tournament. Stacey Terry and Jordan Radford are a good backcourt. So I just think, I think there's a lot of good guard play and a lot of good backcourts around the area, but right in that district, again, the saying it's a guard's game these days. Certainly, I think in the area that we cover, it's a guard's
Certainly
game.
in high school, for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. And in that district, there's some really good guards playing.
So are you asking me who's the best backcourt? I'm not
Well, I
going to
wonder
do that.
who is the best backcourt.
I'm not going to do that because then people get mad at me. But I
We
see
could have
the
a
point.
Twitter poll.
Yeah, they get mad at me about that too, because I'm sure we forgot the Stonewall backcourt. But that being said, a very good question. I think you named some very talented guards, and they're leading the way for their teams this year.
All right, let's jump over to Fairfax.
Well, why don't you start with Fairfax? You're a Fairfax guy, born and raised. Talk about how they're doing at Centerville.
Well, yeah, where I used to coach, Centerville High School. They've won 7 in a row. Kevin Harris went back to one of his old stomping grounds, Falls Church, and won the tournament over there. Talking about backcourts, Bryce Douglas, we've talked about a lot, but he's got a partner in the backcourt now, in Chris Kuzemka, who's putting up big numbers as well, and takes some of the scoring pressure, a lot of the scoring pressure off of
I
Douglas.
saw him play at Stonebridge, and I was real impressed with him. He had 20 that night. He shot the ball. He got to the basket. He definitely sees the floor. He's strong, and only a sophomore. He's going to be there 2 more years.
Yeah, and I saw them play at West Springfield, and Douglas had 30 that night, and I felt like he played very much within himself, and maybe because he's got a partner there in the backcourt that takes a little bit of scoring load off him. So they're playing very well right now. West Potomac only has 2 losses. Daryl Mackey's back. Jonas Munson, big boy.
Jack
Shannon.
Fricko, yeah, Shannon Hardigan.
Yeah.
They had a big win against South Lakes. Not a buzzer beater, but pretty darn close.
Right.
So and they were on the road, which is, I don't know if they were playing with Mackey that night. So they're once healthy, they're going to be who we thought they were.
Right.
Contender in the region.
I am wondering something in Fairfax, but before we get to that,
Be the wonder years.
couple observations. The toughest league, I am biased because I see it, the Patriot
agree.
Conference,
I
I
agree.
think. With Braddock in South County, Woods, and Robinson, West Springfield, I just, it's a saying that there's no nights off, but that league,
West Springfield's
bottom.
banged up more than
They are.
anybody.
They
And if
are.
they were healthy, they would definitely be
Right.
contender there as well. But I agree with you. I think the Patriot is top to bottom the best league around. I would then look at maybe out to Prince William and look at the Osborne, Cedar Run,
Right.
Osborne Park, Battlefield, Stonewall, Patriot. I think you're going to have good nights, good basketball nights there every game. So I would put Patriot 1 and maybe the Cedar Run right behind that.
Yeah. Another observation in Fairfax, I think the most balanced league is the Concord. And we just talked about Centerville. Westfield only has 1 win on the season. But I think top to bottom, that's, again, You talked about it out here in Dulles. I think in the Concord, any team could win the league there, whether it's Sanibel, Chantilly, Oakton, Herndon, Westfield.
McLean?
They're in the Liberty.
Oh, they're Liberty.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
in the Concord, I think that's got tremendous balance. Speaking of the Liberty, Kevin, I've been
McLean
wondering.
could be a team that's a contender. Right?
Here's what I've been wondering: can McLean challenge South Lakes in the Liberty, or you got W&L and Yorktown, but McLean, we got to talk about them because they've been down for a long time. They've got some nice wins.
They've kind of been up and down. I would say they started off the season with some losses, got some very good wins, and then they came over to Rockridge and Loudon and got beat pretty good. It surprised me a little bit. I don't know the whole story, I wasn't there, but they've got to be more consistent. I think South Lakes has been there before. They've got some veteran players. I definitely think McLean has the talent, but they're going to have to be consistent night in and night out.
Yeah, Matthias Propp leading the way for the Highlanders. I think South Lakes is the team to beat, no doubt, and I'm anxious to see if somebody else is going to really challenge them.
Well, I think we're wrapping things up. We're here at the Panther Pit. Thank you to Coach Hawes, good friend of the show. Wish him good luck this year. We'll be back in a week, and I think a lot of the questions we have, a lot of the I wonder, should call this show the Wonder Years, will be in focus. We'll be able to talk more about who those teams that are kind of rising to the top, because you're going to get 2-3 more district games in the books, and we'll see who are the top teams. It'll be fun to see.
Yeah, I think over the next week or two, certainly we'll start to see some separation. So we're anxious to see that. We'll get out and see some games.
All right.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Jeff Hawes for allowing us to film here at Potomac Falls.